Hi, I'm Parcel31U, and this is Material Energy Natural Capital. For the world gen, I've configured all the ores, so let's start with the main biomes and let's work our way from the bottom to the top. Now, mixed in with bedrock, we have anthracite blocks. These are blocks of anthracite coal. Really compressed coal burns twice as long. Above that, we have large bone segments generating. These can be crafted into bones, bone meal, the sort. Every metal that you're familiar with, vanilla, thermal expansion, all those sorts of ores, are generated in large, dense ore clusters. They spawn about once every 8 or 10 chunks. There's about 40 blocks, and each dense block of ore will give you 32 blocks of that ore. Of course, mining them does take roughly around 10 times as long, so it does balance out. You can see we have 32 gold ore, which you can run through ore processing, which in the end game you'll be able to process your ores up to about roughly 15 times. In ocean biomes you'll find massive amounts of clay. Now I've gone ahead and removed the clay in this area so you can see the ore gen. We have abyssal stone with all sorts of gems in it. We have large veins of sapphire ore as well as large pools of oil. Desert and hot biomes are composed of sandstone, so I've gone ahead and removed all the sandstone in this section so we can see the ore gen. We have large veins of ruby ore, dense veins of bauxite. We have white sand, which can be turned into gypsum, which can act as fertilizer. Now most of these are not ores, they're minerals that can be used as other things. There's quarried stone and pumice. Pumice can be used to make concrete, as well as in the combination of limestone. You can also find clusters of quartz in deserts, as well as uranium pockets. Deserts also have black sand at the very bottom, which you can turn into obsidian. Of course, when you first start the pack, you'll naturally go to a tree and punch it, like every other pack, and you'll get your first piece of wood, which you're going to turn into a crafting table, which of course you try to, and you don't get a crafting table, you get an auto workbench instead. Now an auto workbench is auto crafting from Buildcraft, however it does not require any power whatsoever. However, it does take time, and you can use these to automate in the early game. At night, you'll notice that there are no mobs that'll spawn anywhere in the overworld. This is because I didn't want combat and hostile mobs to interfere with the main focus of the pack, the automation. And even if you die, you'll keep all your stuff, never having to worry about losing your items. In this pack you'll have to manage your natural resources, as water does not replenish itself, so you'll be losing water as you pump out the oceans, as well as saplings take 125 times longer to grow. If you cut down a forest, you're not going to be able to repopulate it as soon as you want, as well as there are no generators, so you will have to quarry the overworld to get stone. Now the main focus of this pack is within HQM. You can buy and sell items for coins, in which you can use those coins to buy items, which some are really hard to craft or unattainable through any other means besides buying them. Within the first 20 minutes you'll be giving a modular power suit. The upgrades are uncraftable and you must buy them at increasing cost. The quests to sell items are balanced so that some that are easier will actually hurt the environment more. For example, if you were to sell logs, you could sell a couple hundred at first, but then you're not going to be able to regrow them. So here I've clear cut a section of forest of all the trees. There's nothing left. Now you'll see right here that there is some ore that's in the dirt. Now this can be used to make peat coal, which can be turned into coke eventually, or you can actually turn dirt into peat, which will be able to provide you with fuel as coal coke. Within the first 10 minutes of the game, you'll actually be giving a quarry. However, you're not going to have access to advanced piping such as Ender IO and film expansion piping. I've disabled all of those. You're going to have to go with either BC pipes or Magneticraft inserters and conveyor belts. Now they are somewhat easier than Buildcraft pipes. They will just automatically take it from a chest and put it on a conveyor belt, and then you can take those items and bring them all the way back to your base. Now this pack is inspired by Factorio, and the crafting recipes do reflect that. You'll also notice that there is an expanded inventory. You have 2 more rows. And now this is because there's a lot of building blocks, and I want the player to carry a lot more blocks to build with. Of course, if you do get lost and you have no idea what to do, I do have a progression chapter. Now these quests do not have any rewards due to detection, but they do give you some sort of guide if you are lost and you do not know which machine to build next. First couple machines you'll be using are the coke oven and the forging hammer. Now with the coke oven, I've added a ton of recipes. Usually you can just go from coal to coke. However, I've added recipes that will give you crude oil instead of creosote oil. You can make balls of glue, which you can turn into plastic. You can make dried dirt, which eventually you can use that dried dirt, run it through your forging hammers, and you'll get silty dirt, which you can turn into dried peat. You'll be able to use limestone, which is in the desert, to get quicklime, which you can use for concrete. You'll be able to turn sandstone into hardened clay. You'll be able to turn the black sand that was also in the desert into obsidian. There is also an easy recipe for sandy brick, which you just put bricks in your coke oven. So once you have one up and running, then you can just easily make more coke ovens. You can also turn charcoal into coal and coal into coke. So you can chop down a forest and basically make coke out of it, which you can turn in for money, as well as the creosote oil, which you can turn in for money as well. Now these forging hammers, they're pretty cool. They don't require power, however they do take time. They'll take whatever you put in them and they'll press them. I've added mostly plate recipes. You can also get bones from your large bone segments, which are in the world. Limestone dust from limestone. You can turn gears into inserters. You can also compress wooden planks into wood. There's other various recipes that actually make early game recipes easier. However, I am scaling end game recipes. So instead of like Infinity, where you have to play for 5 hours to make an iron bucket, I'm giving you a quarry right off the start. However, you're going to need to play to actually get to the end game. It's not going to be like, oh, I have a quarry, I'm going to beat this pack in 5 hours. No, it's going to take the same amount of time. You'll actually be using a lot of hoppers when you start off because you don't have access to anything else. And hoppers are actually pretty useful, especially combined with inserters. And they're not actually too bad to craft. They only take 5 stone plates and a forging hammer, which is basically 5 stone. To go through a bit of progression, the first main mod you'll be able to get into is industrial craft. Now this is going to take 4 circuits, 4 gears, and a node, which is basically just glass and some flint. And you'll be able to make industrial craft machines. And then after you make industrial craft machines, the next step is you'll be able to go into thermal expansion. Notice it takes 4 machine blocks, and it takes items such as advanced alloys and carbide ingots, which are a combination of carbon plates. So that means you have to build your industrial craft machines, get those up and running, get your overclockers, get your efficiency upgrades, and then you'll be able to build thermal expansion machines. Once you get your thermal expansion machines up and running, you'll have to use those to get all your types of dusts, taking 4 machine frames, as well as advanced components of industrial craft to make advanced industrial craft machines. One really nice early game addition is being able to buy a hammer, a battle axe, and an excavator for 1 copper coin. And you'll get 1 copper coin within 20 minutes of playing. So you'll have your hammer right away, and a tool forge. It only takes iron and a couple bricks, and you'll have your tool forge. So mining will not be tedious, as well as you'll have both access to the Ender Quarry and the Buildcraft Quarry. This pack is on the Curse Force launcher. If you want to find it, you can just hit Browse All Mod Packs, and you can scroll down a little bit until you see Material Energy Natural Capital. Now if you don't see it, you can just simply type in Material, and it'll bring up all my Material Energy packs.